Attention. Welcome to the Different Spectrums podcast. We dive into the wild world of mental health discussions. Get ready for profound talks, a sprinkle of humor and sarcasm, and a touch of colorful language. Just a quick heads up, our show reflects our individual opinions, which may not align with the standpoint of the podcast, our featured guests, or any related corporate entities. Our mission? To illuminate through laughter and satire because everyone needs a good chuckle. Chill out and don't stress over the small stuff. Legal troubles? No, thank you. Cancel culture? Please spare us. We'd rather keep this space lawsuit free. So buckle up, have a good time, and join us as we navigate the vibrant realm of mental health on the Different Spectrums podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. By using our link, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. So, Naz, as a therapist on BetterHelp, what has your experience been like?
I've been doing it since January of 2021, and it's been really fun and exciting. I've been able to reach clients all over the United States and the world. I've had good relationships. I've had folks that I've had for a couple months and a good handful where I've had for almost 2 years now. So it's magnificent. I've enjoyed my time and my clients. I love them.
Awesome. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call, video chat, or messaging, however you feel the most comfortable. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/DSP or choose Different Spectrums podcast during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Hey everybody, we back again.
We back. How you doing?
I'm Spencer, and that's our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Dr. Nas, y'all.
Remember, don't take us too serious.
Or do. It's completely up to you.
There we go. Also, don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. So, this is actually a special edition of the Different Spectrums podcast. Ooh. So Naz actually was a guest on a panel for a follower and guest on the show, Psych for Geeks.
Yep.
It was for Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Let me do this again.
Chewbacca.
Let's restart.
Actually, that was really good. I thought that was funny.
Elizabeth. No, I need to get her name right.
Okay. Yeah, true.
Yeah. All right. Start again. Here we go. Hey, everybody. We back again.
We back.
I'm Spencer. That's our licensed clinical therapist, Nas.
They call me Dr. Babyface Nas.
There he is. Babyface with a beard. That's right. Remember, don't take us too serious.
Or do. That's up to you. It's an Arab baby, so he's hairy, okay?
You know what? Fair enough. Can't argue that point. Don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. Anyways, today is a special edition of the podcast. Naz was on a guest panel with Elizabeth Sanchez, who has her PhD, also known as Psych for Geeks, and actually has been a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we wanted to show you this panel because Naz was part of it, and they allowed us to actually put it onto our page as well. So, Naz, anything before we get into the special edition of the Different Spectrums podcast?
Hey, everyone. So just as a quick heads up, it'll be multiple therapists that are on there. It's really cool. Some of them are forensic scientists. One of them is actually going to be a psychiatrist. To talk to a psychiatrist in the community that specifically works with video gamers is like unimaginable to get time from them. And then they're all therapists of color as well. So I definitely want you to check this out. We're talking about, what stops people from going into therapy, specifically BIPOC, Black and Brown communities. What are the myths about therapy? And then we talk a lot about fandom, just kind of geeky stuff. What are our favorite, like nerdy things that we're into? And have we used that in therapy before? If you want to see what I talked about, I didn't talk until more towards the end because I wanted others to talk because they don't have a lot of like podcasty stuff. But I talked a lot about masculinity and how that's the thing that stops a lot of folks from getting into therapy. It doesn't matter what gender you are. I think it's really fun. Tons of excitement. If you got ADHD, buckle in because everyone on that damn thing's got ADHD, and it was a lot of talking. But it was wonderful people, wonderful therapist. So check it out, especially if you're nerdy. Check it out.
All right. And with that, let's get into the show.
Whoop,
Whoop,
whoop.
whoop.
There it is.
All right. Hello and welcome to another panel, and I'm very excited for this one. I recorded a few already, but this is the second one that you guys are going to see on YouTube. And I have a bunch of people from really all over the country, different backgrounds and everything. And I'm just going to allow them to introduce themselves because I know I'm just going to either mispronounce a name or forget something completely important. So I'm going to have them take it away. Any volunteers to go first?
I've ripped the Band-Aid off, I guess. My name is Sean Brown. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm a substance abuse counselor. I've been doing this line of work for about 10 years now. My background is in my undergraduate is in applied psychology, and my master's is in alcohol and substance abuse counseling. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a bit. I know I look like I'm 12 years old, but I've been doing this for quite a while now.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. When my screen goes black, just keep talking. It's fine. I still haven't figured out how to.
I kind of got worried for a second.
How to stop the camera from doing that? Yeah, will.
I always say when technical issues happen, it's the government trying to throttle us because there's too many brown people in one meeting at one time.
Sounds
So
right.
yeah, we're being throttled.
That is very true. I didn't really think about it until like Sarah started talking about like her background and stuff, and I was like, oh yes, we are very diverse, like definitely very diverse here. So yes.
Don't worry, I don't work for the men anymore. I work for the people.
I guess I'll go. So I am Lucia Chen. I'm actually a psychiatrist. I have two specialty niches. I work with perinatal reproductive psychiatry, so a lot of pregnant women and postpartum women, and then also working with video gamers because I'm a very avid video gamer myself, so I kind of consider that group my tribe. I'm in private practice. I do telehealth only. I'm licensed in 11 states, so I kind of get to see people. I'm in every time zone in the U.S. except for Hawaii. So I feel very privileged to be able to work with a very wide demographic of patients.
Elizabeth, does that mean it's me now because this is the order we went in earlier? Okay, that's what we're doing. All right, let's.
Yes.
I go by Dr. Nas with all my students and clients. My name is Nazir. He, him pronouns. Social worker, doctorate in social work. I like how you said your undergrad. My undergrad was exercise science. Supposed to be physical therapist. Things didn't work out. Went into social work, and then I've been working in higher ed now since 2014. So all my clients have been higher ed. College students specialize in autism and Black and brown clients specifically, and then I get a lot of student athletes. So that's kind of where I'm at. That pocket, that sector. I usually like to tell people my identity. Identity would be is Mexican and Arab, second generation. A lot of folks are like, what are you? Ambiguous. I usually like to say that, and also a fellow autistic individual. So I like to make that very clear with folks. That's me.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Roldan. I'm a clinical psychologist. I just graduated this past February in the beginning. Thank you. My research is in the benefits of video game in mental health and fandom. I work primarily in person and in telehealth, so half. I work for a private practice, and we specialize in physical pain. So I relate with the athletes, but I work mostly with active duty first responders and chronically ill and terminally ill. And in the side, I'm a podcaster for mental health, and I also do presentations about the benefits, again, of video games and fandom in big conventions such as Comic-Con, WonderCon, Anime Expo, and why not. I'm also neurodivergent, so I'm severely dyslexic and also attention deficit disorder undiagnosed, a self-diagnosed, because we cannot do again the testing. Yeah, in the cross. My training has been, my undergrad was in neuropsychology, special education, and government. And my master's degree, it was in Homeland Security, psychology of rescue. And my background is in, I'm from Guatemala, so I'm half Mayan, half everything else, I call it, because I haven't done the DNA test. So we are called mestizos because we're the mix of the conquistadores and the natives. So I'm both the good and the bad, depending what spectrum you see. I go by my pronouns are she and her, or ella, and I'm bilingual. Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be here. And I just want to thank Elizabeth or Dr. Sanchez for having us here, because having places where we can talk about these topics in a safe way is wonderful. And we should have more of this one. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I tell my friends that I'm actually, this is all for my own benefit because I learn so much from people and it's all free. I'm like, yes, yeah, everybody's giving me their wisdom and it's all free. I mean, it's for the goodness of the community. Yeah, so I didn't even mention like the topic we're going to be talking about today. So we are going to try to the last panel that I did, we talked about why, like some of the reasons behind why therapy is so expensive. So we want to continue in sort of like the same vein, like eliminating some of like the stigma in mental health. And I gather all these people here today so we can talk about some of the stereotypes that we often hear from the people that we work with, or just in general, like in the media. Yeah, but actually, I wanted to start with a fun question today. Some of you guys did talk about some of the fandoms that you are really interested, but I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive. If you had to choose either one game or like one show or one something, like one book, one manga, wherever it might be, like that you are highly, highly passionate about and you would recommend everybody read or watch or play, what would it be?
I always have so many intrusive thoughts. And so immediately I was like, the Bible. Hey, that was a complete joke. For some people, that's super serious. That was a complete joke. My real answer would be, I love New Girl, the TV show New Girl. I think they're all super neurodivergent in it. It's a lovely show. It's got some stuff with maybe some fat phobic stuff in it a little bit, but to me, it's just a wonderful, wonderful show. I identify as a couple of the characters, super awkward, super anxious, super avoidant, but also complete idiot, complete softy. There's just a lot of loving dynamics in it. And that's been my comfort working show or sleeping show right before bed since it came out. So like we're talking like almost like 10 some years, 15 years of just on repeat. So that'd probably be my thing. I recommend a lot of people watch. I feel like there's a lot of healing in it and people can see themselves in almost every character.
Yeah, that is a
Okay.
really good show. Yeah.
I feel like I gave my answer beforehand, so instead of talking about the elephant in the room and a certain blue hedgehog, I'm gonna go a different direction. If I had to pick a show, I love Community. I've watched,
Oh, that's another good one.
I don't know how many. I have like a couple of the. Oh, which by the way, you guys, well, I can talk about it later, but you guys might want to start getting DVDs and stuff again because stuff's changing. But I love watching that series. I can watch it from beginning to end. I don't know how many times I never get tired of it. And Troy Barnes is my favorite character. Donald Glover's character. I identify with him a lot. We're both goofy as hell. So
him and Abed are just extremely autistic too in that show. So
very, very much so. That's probably why I feel like I identify with him as well. I mean, I haven't been formally diagnosed with anything, but I'm sure I'm somewhere on the spectrum.
Well, welcome. From my people to yours.
You're among friends. You know, I asked this question, but I was like, I wasn't prepared to answer. So still need more thinking time. Can somebody else go?
I
Go
can go.
ahead.
I'm way more of a video gamer really than anything else. I would say that probably the most strongest emotional connection that I have to a video game is with Final Fantasy VII. I played it very early on when I was first introduced to the world of video games, and it was, it resonated very strongly with me. But I would say that my favorite to play that I've enjoyed video games are kind of a tie between Skyrim and Stardew Valley.
I know Stardew Valley. It's good.
Great choices.
That's one of like the low level games that I'm like, yes, I play this.
Yeah, with neither, there's no hand-eye coordination that you really need, so it's very easy for you.
Yes. Sarah, you wanted to go?
Oh, sure. So, whew, that is kind of hard. That's like kind of picking your favorite student or your favorite pet or child, you know? Because depending on your age, you know, you like different ones. So right now, for now, I will say I love the game Grease just because it goes for the 5 stages of grief, and the graphics are like mind blowing. It's amazing. If you haven't tried it, just try it. It's so relaxing. But of course, because the population that I work with, Halo, Assassin's Creed, also because in Assassin's Creed, right? In Assassin's Creed, you have one of the best representations of indigenous character that is a badass. Sorry. But yeah, there's a very badass indigenous person there for the first time ever. And it was heart-wrenching and everything. So I like those two as video games. And of course Tetris, because I'm all like Killer says, it doesn't look like, but yeah, I have already a whole decade on me, like half of the cake. So, the for anime and manga and all that is kind of like I like them all, but what it got me started in this, it was the Studios Ghibli, Toro, and Spirit Away. That's why I have that tattoo on me, because it talks about the simple things, right? Like Toro is that kind of mindful grounding, eat mindfully, walk through the grass and ground yourself. And then also it shows you community, the importance of a community in being represented and being connected. And the other one that I love is Fruits Basket. Just because I know,
That's no
right?
oldie.
Right. Fruit Basket is like, it makes you cry, it makes you identify, and it makes you think about those days when you were in high school, when you don't feel you don't belong, when a girl talks to boy in backwards, and when you don't know if you're even in that spectrum. So I love Fruits Basket, even the revamp of it. And then finally, I will say the Train to Busan piece of art, if you like apocalyptic but kind of heart-wrenching. If you haven't watched it, it's a Korean movie / drama, and it talks about zombies. That's because my other career. It talks about zombies, the apocalypse, and you think it's gonna talk about that, but the whole story is not about that. It's about interaction between family. So it was like, okay, I'm terrified about the zombies coming and eat me, but I just want to know what happens to it, right? So it's like those are my main to go to when I go to it. But like I will say the one, and this one only half of the nation, half of the population doesn't know about it unless you're Italian or Central America. Is Candy. It's an anime from the 70s about that's what saying nobody knows about it. It's kind of those kind of gems out there, and it's a whole controversy of like who owns the boys versus the character from the 70s, and leave it to Latin America to say, we don't care, we're gonna just put it out there to the world anywhere. So that was my first exposure to anime and what I fall in love of drama, if you will. And yeah, so and I have many, like I said, like fandom is my thing, and finding psychological perspectives of each one of them. And if you want to be more modernized, I will say Scarlet Witch, because I deal with a lot of population that deals with grief. So the Scarlet Witch is an amazing character to do that. So I love her too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I had a few that I really like, and like I just binge every now and then. But I think I just have to go with the one I talk about all the time, which is, you can't really see it, but this is the map from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I haven't seen the live action yet. Like that's like I've been so busy, and I'm like everybody's posting about it, and I'm like, no, I can't hear or see anything. But I haven't seen it yet. But like that is one of the ones that I keep going back to because it's just so funny. Like, so kids can watch it, but adults can watch it too, and we can get also like a beautiful message. And there's like so many characters, and I just love like everyone gets like a sort of like a character arc. And now you have it in like well, there's a live action one now. You have comics of it. You have like an RPG game that you can play. You have the comics. So everybody, there's like something for everyone out there. And yeah, if you have not seen it, please, that's one of the ones that I highly recommend. And I'm still like working on my siblings, and I'm like, you must watch it. Like with a little watch, I'm like, please, that's a one. If you like wanted to watch anything in your life, it has to be that, because it's just so good. It's amazing. Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just
All
talk.
right, it's costume, right?
Yes.
Yes, if you haven't watched that, is a piece of art, not only because it teaches you about representation, because it has all the clans are representative of clans in Latin America too. So and I know Dr. Sanchez loves it, so but that is one of our faves in here too in the house. And if you want to get the new people to like it, do this experiment, because we know the manga, we know the anime, but not the live action. Lower your expectations. But for new people, they're like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. And I always told, for the people that we love it and everything, I say the story is being told from the perspective of an audience that cannot do the fun things that we do in the anime. So if you haven't watched it, go watch the live action. It's really good. If you haven't watched the anime, it will introduce you to the world, and the arcs, like Dr. Sanchez was saying, it's just amazing, and you're gonna feel represented in every chapter of that anime. Not so much in the live action, because they have to go like this really fast. They collapse 6 books in 8 episodes, so it's kind of hard. But yes, I'm with Dr. Sanchez. If you haven't watched it, you are missing out, because it's an amazing storyline.
There, I just remember like one of my like core memories of being in this fandom is when I was so excited. I went with my siblings and a cousin of mine to watch the movie when it came out. And we binged everything right before we went to watch the movie. And then we came out of the movie and we were like, that sucked, that was the worst. Like our expectations were like up here, and like, no, it didn't deliver. And then there was this little boy, he must have been like 5 or 6, behind us, and he was so excited. He said like, Mom, that was the best thing ever. And I was like, what was it? Like, have you seen the show, dude? Like, but then like, see, that's the thing that I love, where like it's like, okay, maybe it's not my cup of tea, but if other people really enjoy it, then that's what matters. And that's what we're here for, fandoms. But,
I
okay,
think
we can.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
say something on that, because I think a lot of people like to crap on a lot of shows, and I think that things can just be fun. I feel like as we get older, we tend to like just hate everything, and the expectations are always here, here, and here, and here. There's something psychological and pathological going on there. Specifically, if it's like identity-based movies or women-based movies, black and brown movies, it's like, oh, it's trash. Like, no, it was actually pretty good. Like, did you have fun? Did it take you somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Did it make you a little anxious? Did you cry a little bit? Like, yeah, was it the best writing? No, but was it like good enough for you to stream it for free? Like, it was good, bro. Um, Also, you're a grown ass adult with like a doctorate now, where like it's projected for younger audiences. So I'm like, some people just need to chill. I'm not saying you specifically, but like, there's a lot of hate that comes in so many movies. And I'm like, this wasn't bad. Like, I had a good time. I didn't think about bills or my body pains and aches. I didn't think about my anxiety or depression. I didn't think about me being horrible with social situations. I just had fun for like 2 hours. Were you somewhere else for 2 hours? I just want to state that because I feel like a lot of people be like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, shut your hyper masculine ass up.
Well,
this is
I
what,
think there's something to yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's something to be said because one of the things that I do really enjoy doing is talking about whatever show or movie I've seen with my friends. So I think it's completely okay if that was like a
You're good.
horrible movie and then you like hated it. But there's a difference between you disliking it and not like realizing it's not your cup of tea and like
Correct.
going on a rant with your friends and then like just sort of like making mean comments or like making assumptions about people who did like it or saying things like that's completely different
Yep.
thing.
I'm
Well,
talking about there's just a lot of dudes that comment and hate on everything, specifically white dudes that hate on a lot of things. And I'm just like, that's what kind of I'm directing this at. I'm like, chill. You know, the Marvels was pretty good. There's a lot of shows that are pretty good. I'm like, you need to chill. That's
Like,
what
I
I was
don't-
directing that at.
I don't know if you guys, I know you gotta, want to hit the topics and stuff, but
Yeah.
I feel a certain kind of way about that, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. Recently, Pablo Pascal was casted as Reed Richards in the MCU Fantastic Four movie, and people are like, really? They're just doing this because they need a minority, and it's like, or he's a really good actor.
Yes.
Like, not only is he, because like I think ABC or I forgot, it was some kind of document saying that they have to have like some kind of minority character in there, some kind of clause they have. So not only does he fit that bill because he is a minority, but he's just a bomb ass actor. Like people would just kind of, I don't know, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But I just wanted to chime in and say I agree with you.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just want to piggyback on that there's the difference when we grow up and, like you say, we become doctors and all this kind of stuff, or more political or whatever, is escapism versus criticism, right? A lot of people, we go to the movies for escapism, meaning we just want to have a good time. And even talking bad about the movie gives you something to talk about, especially when you have social anxiety or social anything. I was like, oh my God, yeah, it was horrible. Do you saw that section? Yeah, totally. Not even a clue, but you say you do. And then you have the more in-depth ones, right? So I always try to expose people to like, no, you need to watch a horrible movie because we have lost the art of being bored. Just be bored sometimes, like, because we cannot tolerate it. We need that instant gratification of anything. And sometimes life gets boring. Sometimes we don't like things, So it's a good practice. I told him, it's only 2 hours. In the 2 hours, I guarantee you're only not going to like maybe 40 minutes. So it's not that bad. So there is sections in there that you can identify. Because life is not shebangs and boom, 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 and like section after section, right? Sometimes you just go in a very slow pace thing. My husband is very aficionado to go watch movies, and he's the one that taught me that because he watched some movies. I was like, I can't. I was like, and he was like, just be bored. It's okay. He took me to a movie that the whole movie was seeing a tumbleweed going up and down. That was it. Right. And apparently it was an existential philosophical thing, but I totally missed it when I first started. So this is just saying to anybody there, I challenge you to watch a boring movie that you categorize as boring. Of course, we have to differ from like the horror movies. That's a different topic for another story. But horror movies have a different kind of connotation. But yeah, go just be bored one day, 30 minutes, an hour. I invite you to do that because we have lost that. And just sitting with the discomfort of like, I don't have a million things happening, popping in my face. So that's a good practice that, believe it or not, natives or people that live in like very remote areas, you guys know, and we know that just being in peace in the boredom is actually peaceful.
Yeah, it made me because you mentioned My Neighbor Totoro earlier, and I rewatched watched it like a few months ago. And I was talking to someone about it. I think it was one of my friends, and then they were like, "Oh, I didn't like it. It was really boring." And I was like, "Excuse me? Like, what do you mean it was boring?" And I was like, "But there's so much to it, like the mom and the little girl and the siblings and like all these things." And I was like, "But yeah, but like and nowadays we are used to, especially with like all the superhero movies that we have been lucky enough to have, right? And a lot of them were very good, but they're very action packed. There is very like there's a lot of things happening. So just having like that's one of the things that I love about anime, because something like it could be like the weirdest thing happening that like you just completely have to cancel like your you know your belief in like normal things or physics or whatever it might be, or like how anything works. But then they have that one scene where they're just like walking to school and you see like a beautiful like background, or like they just like it's a shot of like the houses, and I was like, yeah, I love that. Like it just like almost everything that I watch, they have like the one shot where it's like very calm, very like let me reset yourself because something else is coming up, and like you just like had all these emotions, like let's bring it down a little bit. But it's we have been talking about like fandoms and like things that we love for quite a while, but I think it's in a way it's very similar, because all of this sort of like prejudices or like horrible things that we hear about fandoms or whatever, it kind of like very similar to what we hear in mental health as well, right? So a lot of the very similar things of um like well, there's no representation. I don't want to go to therapy because nobody looks like me, nobody speaks my language, or like I can't relate to people, or like there's the and like also media is a big way where most people get like a glimpse of what therapy is like,
Yep.
and most of the time it is not a very good representation at all. So that sort of also contributes. But so I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the reasons why people might not reach out, because as we were introducing was everybody was sort of introducing themselves, um, we heard a little bit about like where you work, which is this is I want to say I totally planned this, but not really. But I totally did. So, yeah, like I want to hear a little bit about like some of the reasons that that you hear from the people that you work with of why they took so long to, to reach out, or um yeah, or like why some other family members are still not willing to reach out.
Hmm. I guess I'm probably. I mean, I have, like I said earlier, I've have brushes with mental health. I primarily focus on substance abuse, but to tell where one problem begins and one ends, it's kind of like it's really convoluted. Like it's really hard to
Yep.
say, was this exacerbated because this person's poor mental health, or was it the drugs? Like it's really
Mhm.
hard. But I think the biggest three in my line of work, because I work in the inner city, would be poverty, um, social stigmas, and let's see. Well, I guess that would still go under poverty, but resources, like the lack of resources. People don't really understand. Like you would honestly think that in the year 2024, everyone would have homes equipped with internet. And
Mm.
yeah, like in certain places in the United States, they still use dial-up. It's just kind of one of those things where like resources aren't really available. Like a lot of the inner city schools, they're using books from when Ronald Reagan was in office, if they even still
Mhm.
use textbooks. Like it's just the disparity between the resources that some of the counties might have versus some of the inner cities. Like it's night and day. Um, so yeah, like those three would be the biggest. And also being a minority myself, we don't really. There's a lot of mistrust when it comes to authority figures or even like people in the helping field. A lot of times we don't necessarily trust too many people when it comes to getting outside help. Our issues are our issues, and we have to keep our stuff in our house, and we don't talk about that kind of stuff. And You know, it's just like that. Like we minorities, we oftentimes have a hard time trusting individuals in those kind of power positions of power because we're so used to getting screwed over. I was just talking to someone the other day about Henrietta Lacks because I'm a Baltimore native. You guys familiar with Henrietta Lacks? Okay, so John Hopkins. What about John Hopkins? You guys familiar with John Hopkins? John Hopkins is a pretty big deal in the medical field.
Yep.
John Hopkins got a lot of their and the reason why they're leading in the country is because a lot of the research and stuff that they found. Long story short, Henrietta Lacks was a woman, African American woman who lives here in Baltimore. Well, lived here in Baltimore, and she got some kind of blood work or something like that done. And because of her the findings that they found with her blood and the characteristics of her blood and stuff, they were able to create a lot of different vaccines and different things like that. And I think Oprah Winfrey made a movie or something about it a while back recently. And you know, for years, I want to say within the past maybe 5 to 10 years, they are just kind of giving her credit and giving her family compensation for all of the stuff that they did. Like it's terrible. Like a lot of times, especially where I work, a lot of times people tell me like I don't trust the police, I don't trust doctors, and I don't trust you because I've had counselors and they stay for a little bit, get however many hours they need, and then they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Why am I going to spill my guts out to you and you're going to leave? You know, it's a lot of that. I feel like I talk too much, but those are my
No,
three
it's great.
biggest.
And I actually wanted to like go back to I said no, I don't know who that is, but as you were talking about the story and I was like, wait, I just don't remember the name. But yes, I know who that is because I watched a YouTube video. That's where I get all my information nowadays. But like, yeah, there is this amazing, I can't remember who made it, but this amazing video where they discuss about how like it was for years and they didn't tell her like what they were doing or like anything, like how she was helping people with what she was doing. And it's an amazing story. And it really does like highlight like, or like it gives you sort of like an understanding of why people don't reach out, because if this is like, and it wasn't like that long ago, right, that this is
At all.
happening or that this happened. So yeah, it can be really difficult for people to be, when you hear I think a lot of our communities are very much sort of like wanting to support each other, and like because in the past like we only had each other, right, to like for protection or support or whatever it is that we needed, we have only had each other. And then so that makes it really hard to like reach out to other people or like, you know, move outside of like your own circle, because you don't really fit in anywhere else. And you know, anyway, there's a lot of things, but one of the things that I've started seeing quite recently too is sometimes as professionals we don't spend enough time in our communities. Like you were saying, like I I grew up in a very, very rural area in California, and I remember this happened like just in schools in general, like not even talking about the mental health field, but we had a lot of teachers, like brand new teachers just graduated, come into a school, get 2 or 3 years of like experience, and then they left for better schools. And then it was a like we were basically just training because nobody wanted, like, there's nothing in this town, you guys, like nothing. No movie theater, we have one grocery store, there is nothing here. And like nobody wanted to live here, so like only like you know, newly graduates like will come here, but then eventually they get enough, like they saved enough money, got enough experience, and then they left somewhere else. So like why would I trust someone who's just here? And basically again, it's the whole I'm just being used again. You're just going to be here for a few years and then you're leaving. It's not like you're going to be a part of my community, or you're trying to be a part of my community. There, yeah.
Right. And just to piggy on that is also for my people in Guatemala, we got syphilis experiments done on us. We got the Tuskegee experiment. If you haven't read about those, go read that. Also in our communities, law enforcement is the bad guys. It's not the good guys. And we have been trained since little to not trust the Caucasian or whoever is in power for that reason. And you have to remember that we are representation of power, struggle with our people too. When I one of the things that they barely touch when we go in any graduated training programs is that they don't teach you the circles that evolve for any immigrant or any brown person or any person that is marginalized, right? That is the oppressive environment, the lack of representation, the stereotypes that we as clinicians we have, because it's the thought that we have been given, the racist and bias and the systematic inequalities that a lot of the treatments, and this is stuck to me when I was in one of the mental health hospitals doing an internship. I was, because I'm the one that speaks Spanish, so they always throw me to the Spanish population, right? But there was one person that speak native, right? They speak Chi, and I only knew it because, in my school when I was little, it was required that we learn a little, that way we can communicate with our indigenous people in our countries. And he was in psychotics. He was he did got a concussion, but he was having a meltdown because he fell down from the train. And then when they bring him to the hospital because he couldn't speak and he was freaking out, they put him in a 5150 hole where he freaked out even more. And then when I was talking to him, I understood a little what he was saying, because in his chart, it says he's doing salad work, which if you are in the DSM, you know that salad work is for schizophrenia and stuff like that. So nobody took the time to check his background first before puppeting with medication and putting it away and stuff. Now the guy does have a trauma from that same thing, because they didn't took the time to check the background of this person, right? They just assume he will speak Spanish because he looks Spanish, right? And that's part of like the systematic inadequacies and the stereotypes that we are taught, and that affects a lot of our folks to come to us for help, right? I have many stories of immigrants that go to therapists, and when they told the immigration story, the therapist, I have one that my client told me, "You're not gonna cry about it, right?" Like the therapists cry for the story that they have because they're brutal stories. They're really hard stories. Yeah. But at the same time, we are not taught in our schools unless we get a specialization, right? And so that's a big barrier, like the preoccupation of when you do get the power to go to therapy and you sit there and you're like, I need to take care of my therapist instead of taking care of me, because we're caregivers. All immigrants or anybody that is for marginalized populations, we're caregivers. People that goes in gangs and addictions and why not is because the environment, right? I did forensics for a while, and to tell you how many times people goes back to jail because that's their people, that's where they feel represented, that's where it's a horrible life, but it's the only life that they know. The system is not created to take them out of that system, right? So once you're in it, it's really hard to break that cycle. So I think the educational part comes to our schools or representatives, the hospitals and treatment plans, because a lot of the treatment centers, like Charles was saying, they're from the 50s or 60s sometimes. The more rural that it is, you're lucky if you have any kind of CBT book to work with somebody, or any DBT book, right? And then also the amount of, and probably that will be a topic for another thing, but it's like indentured servitude that as clinicians we have to give, like 3,000 hours, so why not? And I know it's a very critical topic, but think about it. We don't get, some places we get paid, some places we don't get paid, but it's like below sometimes livable wage. So when you say, oh, I have clinicians that come to my school or come to the rural area and they leave because they're coming to that area because that will forgive them some kind of student loan or something, and of course they're like, they take that almost like a punishment, or like I'm doing charity work. And then so it's about changing the narrative of like, no, we go here because we're passionate and because this is how the system is going to change. Mental health is a right. It's not just for the privilege. It's a right that we all need to have, but we need to start from the root of the problem, that is the trauma that we have as a generations, right? We have to be the trailblazers, that we are the examples of like, you can come to us and we will offer you the space to talk, to feel, and to be seen. Sorry, I talked too much.
No. No such thing here. Because you've made so many great points. And that's one of the ones that I want to talk about, because sometimes when we even, let's say I am very passionate about, working with my community and working like in inner city, when you get to that location, they're like, oh, great, you're here. Here are 80 clients you need to see every week. You need to go to 5 meetings, you need to do this thing, and then everything has to be on time. And what is wrong with you if you don't do it? Like, that just leads to exhaustion. And even if you're very passionate about it, you're like, I can't do this anymore. Like I need to leave, I need to go. And like, I come from a very low SES sort of family. So I have a lot of student loans. So I need to somehow be able to pay for them as well. And if I'm living in like rural communities where they really need the help, I'm not getting a lot of money, because most of these people, the way that the system works, they are like receiving, government assistance or whatever, and we don't get that much. So I need to go somewhere where I'm getting paid more, I'm treated better, not only for like, my financial situation, but also for my own mental health. So that like also complicates things as well. Like on our side, not only for the clients, and also for the clients, because you're like all burnt out, like seeing so many people and hearing like these, very traumatic stories. It's a very emotional sort of like field, and we need to take care of ourselves, because otherwise we're not able to give like our best to who we're working with. And then they're like, oh, well, they weren't paying attention, or like they were zoning out. Like, why would I go and ask for help when they're just like snapping at me, or like they're making me wait for so long? And like in the area where I live, we don't have enough clinicians in general. And then so you reach out because you are really going through something and you need help. You reach out and it's a wait list of a couple of months, if they take the insurance that you have. Otherwise, you need to pay out of pocket. And a lot of people here are like, there's no way I can afford 100+ therapy session. That may not work.
Yeah, speaking from with a medical background, the people say, well, they should be able to access the physicians, when they need to. And, medical students, they don't go into medical school thinking, I want to get out of this career as soon as possible. They go into medical school because it's 4 years of, postgraduate training plus, 4 to 7 years of training, making minimum wage, because we're working about 80 hours and only getting paid for about 40 of them. The sleepless nights, 36-hour calls, giving up weekends, all that. By the time that we are actually out there, actually practicing and seeing patients, we're so overwhelmed, we're so burned out, we have a ton of student debt that we have to pay off, that having to fight with insurance companies and fight with documentation requirements. I mean, there's sometimes we spend hours after we see patients finishing our notes, because it has to be written in a particular way in order for that facility to actually be able to bill Medicare or Medicaid or the insurance company and actually get paid. And I have colleagues that are regularly, they end their clinic day at 3, 4, 5 p.m. and they're in front of the computer trying to finish their notes, calling pharmacies, calling insurance, trying to get prior authorizations done, until 10, 11 p.m. at night. That's not a sustainable lifestyle for a lot of physicians, and that's why we're averaging about 1 physician suicide a day for the past couple of years. We're losing them really, really fast. A lot of physicians are just like, we need to get out. There was a recent study by the American Medical Association survey that was done saying that, 20-30% of physicians practicing right now are planning to leave medicine altogether within the next several years. And so you've got that shortage, which means that the people who do stay get even more burnt out because then they have to come and take care of all these other patients. And we don't have the time to be able to devote to doing a comprehensive records evaluation for every single patient. So we miss details, and then that comes back and it's just kind of this spiraling out of control bad system because there's so many aspects of the system that are not well designed.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Not to I just want to chime in with you guys, what both of you guys said previously. I used to work in medicated assisted treatment, methadone maintenance, and I did that for about 7 years. And you're absolutely right. Like you get in, that was my first career job, and out the gate, I was assigned 50 people starting. 50 people. My caseload was 50 people. I'm still learning how to use the tools and the system and all that other stuff. Like they just threw me in there and was like, "Yep, 50 people, you're responsible." And then they micromanage you. It's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot that they like. You don't really. And I'm glad. This is why I like doing this kind of stuff because like I can talk to this. I can talk to a regular person about this and they would have no idea what I'm talking about. But behind the scenes is very, very stressful. People are like, "Oh, well, you just sit behind a desk all day. Like, what are you stressed out about?" Like, no, I don't. I talk to people for a living. I don't want to talk to people after I get off work.
No.
I don't want to talk to people. I hate people. Not really, but yeah, a little bit. I hate people sometimes. So I just wanted to kind of say that I didn't want to take too much time, but yeah, like you're absolutely right. I didn't even think to make that connection.
No, and I think I wanted to point something out for because I worked at a crisis house for one of my internships, and one of the things that I would hear consistently that I was like, I don't know how I feel about this because I was still relatively new to doing therapy, and especially like with substance abuse, and but I would hear a lot of my coworkers talk about how, oh, they're faking or they're not really needing this or this is what was it they call it where they're like, oh, they're
Drug seeking.
constantly here, they're just cycling, then they're coming back, like this is a thing that happens all the time. So because I think maybe partially because we're so burnt out or whatever, we as mental health providers, um, sometimes we do develop those biases of like, oh, I seen a couple of people who are here only for like to get medications or whatever, and they're just gonna sell them, or uh, this person like is in and out of the hospital all the time. They're like they just they can't get better or they're not gonna get better, so we're not really gonna like dedicate as much effort to that person or much energy because we're gonna see them in like a week or two, once again. So I think that that's a very common thing as well. Or like, let me hear from you because I only had that 1 year of experience. You will know more about
No,
that.
yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's terrible. Like, people in this line of work, once you get to that point where you're burned out, like you just have to be honest with yourself and realize that you're not helping. Like you're kind of adding
True.
to the problem if you have that attitude. Or they're just here again, drug seeking. I remember I went to the hospital with someone and we're waiting in triage, and you could hear it in the earshot. Like I know if I heard it, the person that they were talking about definitely heard it. But they were like, "Oh, he's just here," like sharing personal, intimate stuff about this person. He's here, he's drug seeking. There's nothing really wrong with this person. And prior to COVID, a lot of times people, especially in the inner city, they would sometimes come in and try to, because like if you're in methadone maintenance and it's an emergency, you miss a day getting medicated, you can go to the hospital every so often and they can medicate you. But the problem is, like, even though there are individuals out here who are still actively using it and they're not ready for change just yet, you can't, like, if you squeeze a hose and let the water build up, you can't say, "Oh, well, these couple of water droplets are good. These are the good ones." Like, you can't, you're cutting off access to everyone, pretty much. So I definitely have heard it. Even coworkers, sad to say, have that attitude sometimes. People, because with addiction, I'm not sure if it's as bad of a problem over there on the West Coast where you guys are, but opiates over here are really, really bad right now.
Yeah.
I myself actually, like you mentioned earlier about like having brushes with this, and through having brushes with growing up around a certain kind of thing, it makes you go into a certain kind of field. Because honestly, I was a computer science major before any of this stuff. And my family is probably my biggest reason as to why I got into this work, because like I'm cut from the same cloth. I have a lot of relatives. Just the year prior, I buried 2 relatives from fentanyl overdoses. Like, it's that bad of a problem.
Yep.
You know, it's just one of those things where, yeah, like people definitely gravitate towards you more when they feel like you're being passionate and it's not about a paycheck. But sometimes people do get to a point where they are burnt out. They are tired because of everything that you guys said. Those things are very real. I felt it.
Right.
But again, like, you know, that's why self-care is important. You have to kind of realize that if it's becoming that big of a problem, you need to step away because you're hurting people more than you're helping them. Being judged, like, there's nothing that we can probably say to these people that they probably haven't already said about themselves. So the last thing they need to hear is somebody who, again, is in a position to help them to judge them.
Correct.
Yeah, right. And then also we have to remember that one thing that I learned working in highway houses and in treatment centers, other than they give you we are from California, right? And I'm from San Diego. Here we have a huge problem with homelessness due to the increased price of everything, right? We are #1 city in the nation of how expensive it is to live here. We beat New York. So
Wow.
just to give you a sense of how bad economically it is here, but we have very good weather and we have very good resources, right? But we are overflowing the resources. For every resource that we have over 200 people expecting that resource. And then we get shipments of people too, because, you know, again, good weather, right? Attracts that. One thing that we forget is like hierarchy of needs, right? That includes us as professionals. If our needs are not met, meaning food, shelter, and economic coming in, how we're gonna be thinking about helping anybody or helping ourselves? One thing that a lot of programs have is that they make us go to therapy, but it's out of pocket. Right? So it's like, wait, I'm already working 120 hours and I'm making pennies, which I love working for my people, right? But you want me to go pay somebody $200 because I'm a student, right? So right there, the system, right? And then the stereotypes also happen because we are not, it's a very big monster, right? For any clinician, so we are, I'm going to speak from my perspective, right? For my experience. I'm a Latina, disabled, chronically ill human being, right? The system was not designed for me. I have a doctoral that took 14 years to acquire, but I'm 0.1 population in clinical psychology doctors, right? 0.1 point. I don't make even a whole person yet. So just to think about that. And then when we talk to our centers and our programs, we are the talking kid a lot of the times, right? But the system is not created for us, so we leave. I have so many amazing clinicians that they have lived the work because we are always in schools. They always tell us, oh, when you have private practice, when you have private practice, when you have private practice. What they don't tell you is how to have that private practice when you are already coming from negative one, right? So I say this because we have to see, this is a huge problem, right? For even the clients, because a lot of us, we have become in these careers either because, like you say, we were a client, we have somebody in our family, or we see the systematic corrosion of our populations and we want to help. But when we are in the trenches, we see that all the stabbings that we're getting and we have to get out, right? Or we have to go to private practice, which private practice is such a limiting thing for our communities because private practice doesn't take Medicare or Medicare, not all of them. The doctors, I have an amazing team of psychiatrists too. And literally we cry together because it's like, I cannot get the medication that they need. I have to give them this other medication, which I know they're going to stop taking because it's going to increase X, Y, and Z symptoms. And one of the biggest symptoms that we have is oppression. And not to get political or anything like that, but that is the truth. It's the oppression of our communities that is not letting us heal. So one of the things is I'm very appreciative of forums like this, or forums where we can talk and have a space to say, I'm hurting as a clinician. I'm hurting because I cannot help my people. And I'm hurting because the systems are not creating for us to help our loved ones and care ones. And on top of that, I have to walk away from helping them because I need to survive too. So that trauma that creates in clinicians, and I'm with Dr. Chang when they were saying that people doesn't know nurses, doctors, and clinical and therapists and social workers, especially social workers. The paperwork that you guys have to do, take my hat to you, but they have the highest rate of suicide, addiction, divorce, and domestic violence. We're like the cops, have that stress level that we just walking away from our careers because they are taking away of our careers due to the oppression that we live in.
Yeah, it's too much.
To piggy off a little bit off of that, like you mentioned, like we're expected to get our own therapist and pay for it out of pocket when we're doing, the mental health training. But doctors who get mental help, they actually are, it backfires on them when they're trying to renew their medical license. So they almost every medical state board has in their questions when you're applying or renewing, have you been diagnosed or are you seeking help for mental health treatment? And so that it's even more than a stigma. It's this could jeopardize my ability to work and get my license renewed or apply for a new license if I get mental health treatment. And that's why we have so many physician suicides, because the physicians, they just say, I can't get treatment, I can't get treatment, I can't get treatment. And then they tip that over and then they're just like, forget it, I can't deal with this anymore.
I want to ask Doc Chang about something. So to the main question where we talked about what is impacting or slowing people getting into treatment, for like you with the people in the population that you work with, what is the main reason on why they're not seeking it, or what's the limiting, what's getting in the way? Kind of like what Sean talked about earlier. What do you see with your population?
So with mine specifically, because I am a psychiatrist, I prescribe.
Yeah.
A lot of the patients are afraid of me because they think that if they see me, I'm going to pump them full of meds, which is not true. I try to kind of help educate people. I tell them, look, psychiatrists, we're the experts in a lot of very research-based treatments for, some very severe mental illnesses, not just depression and anxiety, but, some that are actually more difficult to get under control with just therapy, like schizophrenia or OCD or, bipolar disorder, where you really need that kind of chemical stabilization in addition to therapy. But I tell them, we have the information. Talking to us once does not obligate you to take medication, but having good information will give you the power to make better health decisions for yourself, to decide whether or not you're going to pursue treatment. But because there's so much stigma around psychiatric medication, and granted that is, historically, psychiatry has not had the best respectable history. I admit that. We absolutely accept that. We're trying to work through it. That's why we've had so many revisions of the DSM. But there is a lot of fear about psychiatrists specifically because we do control a prescription pad.
Okay.
I'm gonna interrupt a little bit to talk about myself here. But I think it's like everything, because as a well, I'm on my path. I'm not a psychologist yet, but as a mental health provider, I had to take some classes, on medications and the impacts and the brain, all that stuff, which admittedly is not my cup of tea. I couldn't really understand most of it, but I still have some of that stigma that you were talking about, because I remember going in to do sort of a consultation, because I kind of self-diagnosed myself with ADHD. And then I was like, wait, hold on. I don't want to be like, is it me or is it not? I want to talk to someone and figure out if this is it or not, right? So I did that. And then I was talking about medication, and I was like, listen, I'm just really struggling to finish my dissertation. Just give me medication that will help me with that, and then I will stop. I don't need to continue medication because I'm afraid I'm going to get addicted or whatever, And then my psychiatrist amazing. And then he was like, no, but we want you to be able to function. And I was like, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about being able to function properly. I was like, Oh yeah, no, I like that. That's a good idea. But like even us, like still being sort of like in the adjacent field as yours, we still have that thing. And I remember just talking to some of my clients, and I had to say things like, oh, you don't have to, but if you ask a psychiatrist about medication, you can, because a lot of the times too, I don't know what it's like on your side, but we often hear, although I have a lot of like really side effects, it's not really working. And I'm like, well, have you mentioned that? And they're like, no. And I'm like,
Never.
well, you can't read your mind, like you have to talk about it. Like it's a even in therapy too, sometimes it's like a trial and error until we find something that works for you, and I that's kind of what I try to explain. But even for my own self, I forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
So like again, this is why I wanted to have and hear from everyone, because I still have biases. I'm only human, you guys.
Yeah, I try to remind a lot of people who are not psychiatrists, we're psychiatrists, we're not psychics. And so we're not going to know what you are thinking and experiencing unless you tell us. We can suspect sometimes if you're showing clinical signs, we can ask, but ultimately, we're not going to know what specific symptoms or side effects or struggles you're having with a medication if you don't tell us. And a lot of people are scared of psychiatrists. They're really scared that if they say or complain about a medication, they're going to be accused of malingering or drug seeking or being non-compliant or whatever it is. And so they don't say anything, and then they just decide to stop taking their medications, and then their symptoms gets worse, and it just kind of spirals. And unfortunately, back kind of circling back to the whole burned out clinician issue, especially the clinicians who are working in poorer communities, like community mental health centers or, Medicaid centers, Medicare centers, FQHCs, they have so many patients on their schedule.
Yes.
They really only have like 5 or 10 minutes
Yep.
per patient. It's practically impossible to do a thorough interview and elicit all the information that you really need to elicit from the patient, because all you really have time is, here's another prescription, I'm putting in the computer, out the door you go, next, because they've got like 30 other people that are waiting to see them. So it's again part of that whole spiral. And I've had a lot of patients come to me going, well, I didn't really feel like the last psychiatrist I saw was a really good fit because he really only spent like 5 minutes talking to me. It's like, maybe he only had 5 minutes that, granted, it's not ideal and it's not good care, but that is what our health system has tended to be.
And another thing I would like to ask Dr. Chang, it will be like, for example, I work with active duty and first responders. There's medications that they cannot take even if they need it. Like, it's like, no, you will lose your job, you will downhill. And a lot of them told me that, like, I will take over the counter, whatever mimics this, but I will not take this medication. And sometimes they go, unfortunately, they go to other countries because we're like borderlines. They go because they were like, oh, it's not going to be in my record. We're like, but you're going to have the side effects. So as therapists, I think it's super important to collaborate with our psychiatrists, meaning have a contact. I always make all my clients, not always, but like I suggest, please sign an ROI in case your clinician needs to, like, I can send them the treatment plan. Oh, here's the treatment plan. Go show them your symptoms and why not, because I know they only have 5 minutes because they have 120 people to see. And I always say, when you get your medication, let's talk about it here because you have an hour with me. We know you a little more intimately, but they know their craft. I trust them that they know what to do. And I always say, you're going to get the crappy effects the first 2 weeks, and then after 4 weeks, then you can reassess. But I told them how long it took you to get the help. So imagine all those years of the chemistry imbalance in your brain. So it's not a miracle cure either. But I think we need to partner with our psychiatrists in our regions to help them, because we're a team. And in the past, we have seen like, oh no, the psychiatrists don't talk to me, kind of thing, because for some reason we make hierarchies in our community when in reality we're all working for the same reason. We want to help.
Absolutely. And the different, I value therapists so much, and I try very hard to, coordinate care and communicate regularly with my patients, because I don't actually do therapy myself. I'm primarily medication management, simply because, I can help more people, and because I have shorter visits than hour long. And we believe me, we do in our training where we absolutely recognize that the therapists have more access to the patients, you see the patients for longer spans of time. They're more forthcoming with you. They're more comfortable with you. They give you a lot more information more frequently than they see us, because they really only see us maybe once a month, once every 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, year-long, months at a time. But so many of us just don't have that time, because once again, you've got the psychiatrists who've got like 30 patient schedule. Where are you going to find the time to pick up the phone and call the therapist or talk to them? Because they're already, those people who've got 30, 40 patients that they have to see every day, they're the ones who are also staying in front of their computers until 10, 11 p.m. trying to finish all the notes.
Yep.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Dr. Chang. So and thank you. Like a lot of times when I work with psychiatrists and stuff like that, my experiences in some cases weren't very good. It's either the individuals that's burnt out, or the individuals like, well, I gotta get out of here. Like they just kind of, it's never in between. And it's nice to see someone who actually is compassionate and like, you're bringing up legitimate concerns. Like, no, I want to help. It's just that I don't have enough time. But my question to you, and this again goes back to a barrier treatment. A lot of times in my experience, people don't like feeling how they feel. They don't want to have some of these positive symptoms, like with schizophrenia, or hearing auditory, or seeing visual hallucinations, and different things like that. And a lot of times they'll self-medicate. And they'll do different things, and they're like, well, why go talk to someone? And that's a big concern with me, is a lot of times people coming in, I can't begin to talk to them about drugs until their mental health is stable.
Yep.
So a lot of times that's my first goal, is to try to get them some kind of wraparound care with getting a therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever they might need, so that way I can do my job.
Yeah.
But my biggest question for you is like, how do you alleviate that? Because I on my end, I try to tell people, like, look, I'm gonna be straight with you. You're not gonna see the results for maybe like a month when you start taking these medications. And I have to let them know out the gate that like you're going to have to like ride it out. And a lot of times people, like, again, they want that instant dopamine. They want that, I want to feel better now. And like that's not how things work. And that's why a lot of people in my line of work chase. They know, okay, well, I know that this is going to make me feel better in the moment. How do you get over that hurdle when it comes to trying to help people? Because, a lot of times people want that instant microwave, I want my problems fixed now type of solution.
Wait, I want to piggyback on that, because like you mentioned, like sometimes you don't see the effects until like a month, but sometimes when they start seeing them, they stop taking the medications because now they feel better. Like, so those two questions, if you could answer, that would be great. Thank you.
So, and this is why I'm in private practice, because when I'm in private practice, I burned out from working in an inpatient facility. And so I decided I was either leaving medicine or I was doing private practice, because I really couldn't deal with admins telling me how to do my job anymore. And being in private practice, I have the luxury of spending more time with my patients, which means I get to communicate more with them, which means I get to explain stuff like in detail, and take the time to do it so that they understand it. And so what I do explain to them, across the board, a lot of times detox is very uncomfortable, or, they're severely depressed or having hallucinations. They're expecting things to get better right away. Some meds can work faster than others, but I do explain to them, for certain medications, that you do have to be patient with it. You did not develop this issue overnight. It's not going to fix itself. overnight. It's going to take time for the brain chemistry to kind of refine itself. Now, all I can do in the meantime, there are maybe other meds that we can put you on to temporarily alleviate some of the more uncomfortable symptoms of going through this process. Like with antidepressants, sometimes the first few weeks people get a lot more anxious or they can't sleep as well. I would say, there are temporary mild meds that we can put you on that can help decrease some of that anxiety or help with the sleep or whatever it needs until the med starts to kick in and you're feeling better. But can I fix this process for you overnight? No, I can't. I'm not God. I'm not a miracle worker. I can only give you information and help you with how these meds work biochemically. You can't fight biochemistry.
Yep.
As for the patients who they get better and they stop their medications, I actually warn them about this when I first start them on a medication. I spend like 15, 20 minutes in a visit with a new patient just going over medication effects, side effects, expectations, and stuff like that, which is the wonderful thing about private practice. And I do warn them, look, when you start to feel better, you may feel so well that you start thinking you don't need this medication. Okay, but you need to remember that, again, you did not end up with all these symptoms overnight. It's going to take time for your brain to learn how to maintain a proper chemistry so that it has a better chance of being able to maintain that stability if you ever decide to come off medication, which means you really need to give it more time. You need to stay on the medication. I expect to see a certain period of stability, like rock solid, stable. Okay. And then I'm happy to work with you to talk about possibly going lower or getting off your medications. And, but there are some diagnoses where it's like schizophrenia, where I tell them, look, it's like, type 1 diabetes. You need insulin. If you're type 1, you need this medication to stay stable. And, this is something, I'm sorry, you're going to have to accept, but we can try to pick a medication for you where you're going to have minimal side effects. And you're going to be able to tolerate and sustain that comfortably.
The
So,
conversation with my students, I'm like, so kid, and I'm very outside the box and like inappropriate. I don't center any of my therapy around whiteness at all.
Me too.
And I'm like, so look, kid, you're crazy. They look at you. I said, you got a lot of shit, and being on this for 2 months, 6 months. I mean, you're gonna be on this medicine maybe until the end of school or your PhD. I said, there's not a big deal. You got to get your neurochemistry in the right thing. Like therapy talking to me is only going to help you so much. I can't stop the obsessive thinking and the compulsions. I can't stop the delusions. Like we need extra additive, the picking and the scratching, the going and checking your research, driving drunk to go check your research. Like, no. So we need to be stable. And I'll joke around with that and be humorous because that automatically starts to destigmatize it because I know that they already think that they're crazy. And so that's why I try to make things a little light. And I'll be like, I know you want to quit. I know you feeling good, huh? So you about to quit your meds? I'm not gonna quit my meds. Oh, okay. I know you about to quit your meds though. Uh-huh. Bipolar ass. And I'm swear to God, I am just like this.
It helps.
I'm telling you, Elizabeth knows, like my pod that we do, Different Spectrum podcast. We're a little unprofessional, right? And so we're not a podcast for everyone. And people will be like, I can't believe this is how you talk. But I'm like, this is how I talk.
Meet
And
people
this
where
is
they
what
are.
humans.
Yeah.
Real talk. Yeah, I like
You're being
it.
real. And so I was going to interject my piece real quick. The part I think that gets in the way the most is the way we look at gender or like patriarchy in general and how we feminize therapy. And so I'll do talks with like NFL professional teams, NBA teams, just my clients, Olympic like kids, athletes. You're talking black and brown communities and poor. The biggest thing is masculinity. Doesn't matter what gender you are. And so we have feminized any and every service that comes to help or comes to be empathetic. Most of the clinicians that you see, nurses, healthcare, caring, social workers, going to be white women. And so it's a rarity that me and Sean are here. Like these are straight up
We're
unicorns.
Jinx.
Unicorns. And so, and then you, right? You have your identities, but then you take mine on top of that, which is a very masculine, very large collegiate football athlete. And people will instantly, I can be as feminine as I want. I can use all of my privileges in my gender and size. and then I can get to the real talk immediately. I always garner and demand respect because of my size, and people look up to me.
Right.
Like, you have to. And so it allows me to immediately demystify therapy and make it real. And so all my boys in fraternities and Greek life and sororities, they're like, holy shit, like I can just have a conversation with you and this is not a big deal. It's like, yes. So it's the masculinity that kills us, and not necessarily this toxic masculinity, because I don't want to act like super woke here, but people don't understand that's what's killing us. Is that even the clinicians that we see are sometimes so centered in just like empathy and like regurgitating, oh, that must be hard for you. My client already knows this shit is hard. like, yes. And like when I'm working with all my neurodivergent autistic kids, they're like, they don't need me to repair it back what they just said. They're like, Nas, I need help. I need solutions. I need treatment. I need strategies. I need coaching.
Yeah.
But also I need it delivered in a real way that if we happen to swear, we swear. If we happen to use our colloquiums or slang, like it's cool. If some of my clients that are Black identifier, they use the N-word, like I'm cool. Other clinicians, I know they look weird and they act funny. So it's about knowing the lingo, the swag, having lived experiences. As Dr. Yeager talks, he works with the XFL and NFL now for therapy. He said, I'm a wounded healer. I was like, I like that. Because I've got a lot of stuff. And the studies show that folks that go through a lot of stuff tend to be the biggest empaths. And it's the lived experiences. So clients don't have to explain a certain thing to me. It's the same thing with cultural things or gender-based things. You don't have trans-based things, queer-based things. You don't have to explain to someone who already knows the experience. So I think there's a lot missing in counselors having the experience, psychiatrists having the experiences. But also it's about representation, and it's about femininity, masculinity. It's about being real. I'm going to say this one thing about this person, and not everyone's going to like this person, but there's this podcast in the show on ESPN called Pat McAfee. In the beginning of the show, there's a warning, and it says, we swear and are inappropriate because that's how real people talk in the real world.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And someone said earlier, like, it was Sarah, the therapist is like crying with them. Inappropriate because they're going through their story. But every once in a while, if it's like a story, then, you can get emotional, right?
Right.
But if they're like showing your drama, now they really think they're messed up because you're sitting there crying. So there's a difference between authenticity and then centering yourself as the victim. Or it's like how a lot of white-bodied individuals right now are centering themselves with the things that are going with Palestine, and me being an Arab counselor and clinician, my grandfather being from Palestine. Don't want to get political, but it's just interesting how people are like taking the limelight in certain things. Not going to get fully into that. Where's authenticity? Where can we get away from centering from whiteness and the DSM that was written by white dudes for white dudes? This is why it's so hard to diagnose autism. This is why it's so disabling and so unaffirming that it's just hard. So those are things that I wanted to say because it impacts all of our people. And Dr. Elizabeth, this is why I do all the stuff with athletes and I post all of it, because look how masculine they are, and yet also deeply wounded and deeply, deeply human. As Nelson Mandela always said, a human being deserve these rights and love as a human being. I deserve respect as a human being. So we get in the way of a lot of things because we do this all this identity stuff. But at the end of the day, we're just people that want to be loved and want to love. And I think that gets lost in translation. I think counselors lose it. I think a lot of people lose it. It's nice to meet all you because like y'all get it. Like y'all get it. But a lot of other counselors don't get it. So that was my piece on that. It's how to help our people, our populations with the masculinity issues and then race-based issues.
I think there's also a difficulty there in that in the training for a lot of mental health clinicians, there's kind of like two camps of people. There's like the camp that are like, you have to maintain professional demeanor throughout the entire encounter. And then there's the camp that are like, it's fine to share some personal details and be human. And so I think depending on what kind of clients or patients you're working with and what camp you're falling into, like some clients or patients are going to be like, I don't want to see my therapist cry because that is super unprofessional. But then there's also some that is like, I like knowing that this person who I'm delving my deepest, darkest secrets to actually care about me and is human. And so sometimes I think you kind of have to pick, you see what type of person you're matching with. because not one, you can't make everybody happy.
So
Yeah.
I had Sarah, you keep calling me Dr. Sanchez, and I'm like, that's so weird because nobody has called me that, or it's been like a while, and I'm like, it's so weird. And then okay, so I've started to do like mental health presentations in my community, and
Mhm.
I've done 2 so far, and I forget to introduce myself as a doctor or any of my credentials. I'm like, hey, I'm Elizabeth, and today I'm talking about X, Y, and Z. And after each talk, I'm like, oh, I forgot. And then I was like, why are these people trusting me? Like with all this information, like how do they know that I know what I'm talking about? Right. And I just realized that the people that I have been talking to are like my people, they're my community. And a lot of the times, what I've noticed is that the opinion of another community member matters more than whoever is a professional. It doesn't matter how many titles you have. I care more about what this person from church or like from my community says because I know them. I trust them. I've seen them. They've helped me before, and then that's what I like struggle. Like ever since I was in school and like all my practicums and stuff, I was like, I feel really weird every time they're like, "Be professional," and I was like, I hate it. I hate it. Like instantly, I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to. And I was just like not wanting to do anything, right? Like, and then now that I'm like I think part of the reason why I decided to do the nonprofit is because I could do it and design it the way that I want. And then I was talking to my parents about how I was like I just keep asking them like I was like if you went to a therapist and they were like super professional and wearing like a jacket and like, they all look nice, would you feel comfortable? And they're like no, because I'll be like in my humble clothes. And I was like yeah, exactly, like I need to be like you. And I think they still don't really quite like understand either because the other day I did I have a Spanish podcast and I'm always like, well, did you like it? Like, give me feedback because I want to improve, right? And then they're like, oh, that's good, but you said a swear word. Like, don't say that, you're professional. And I was like, but that's what people are thinking. Like, and I was like, I was just saying, like, I wasn't even like aiming it at anybody. I was like, these are the thoughts that sometimes you have. And then they were like, well, you shouldn't do that because you're a professional. And I was like, no, but it's better because this is what people are thinking. And they're like, oh yeah, like I can relate better to you. And I'm like, sometimes I do swear. And like, and then I have people that either come do the panels or they're talking to me and they like accidentally swear and then they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's okay, like it's fine, just keep going, like it doesn't matter. But like that's also kind of like part of connecting with people. And we kind of go back to the way that we help people the most is by making that human to human connection, right? It doesn't matter how much, and that's why like our life experience is so valuable because we can like make that connection faster because I know what you're going through. And I think sometimes we forget that because we want to use all these fancy things that we learn in school or like these new things that are coming out, and especially if we work with different cultures or people who come from very financially difficult situations. Being super professional about something or wearing your best clothes to work might not necessarily be the best treatment that they might need, right?
Yeah.
If you're working with again in a different location where everybody has more of a financial means, then maybe like you might be able to wear that and it's sort of expected. But I think it's kind of part of the um what you call it's the what's the word, the stigma and the stereotypes that we have, right? Depending on who you're talking about or which community you're talking about, the stereotype might be a little bit different, or the things that they expect out of us in whatever helping profession we're in, it's a little bit different. Dr.
Yeah.
Naz, you wanted to say something? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, this will be really quick. It's centered again. Once again, the key word is whiteness. You are setting a hierarchy, is what Dr. Sarah said earlier. Is they're up here with their clothes and profession. I will always be up here. You will never reach up here. I am the one. I am the God. You will listen and learn from me. When you start wearing a certain clothes and you come from that community, now they can be like, oh shit. So I can not only be damaged, we're all damaged, So I can be damaged and also learn from you and heal from you, but also maybe I can achieve and be as healthy as you. And so there's a difference in meeting where they're at. Not all people are going to want that. I have some folks that are like, ugh, I don't know about Nas. But I also coach which very well to meet people where they're at.
Right.
Again, the hierarchy is not a good thing. And I think you must understand, I keep calling you by Dr. Elizabeth, or I always use first names. That title, though, you have to start saying it because in your populations, they're going to be like, holy shit, I could be you.
Yeah.
And so the power in that is like magnificent. I mean, my students are just like enamored. And I never lose my identities. I still talk my game. I'm still pretty urban. I come from a low, impoverished place. Father's a convict. Mother was issues as well. Drug abuse, all types of stuff. I've got arrest record as well and violence. I am who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. I accept my identities. I don't punish them. The suicidality, homicidality, I don't punish that. That is part of me. And I'm very mindful and soothing of those things. And people are like, holy shit, I can do that. That's how I train students, clients. You don't have to be ashamed of the suicidality. And so again, there's so much that is in shame in whiteness. And I don't want to sound again super woke about it because then people will kind of crap on this. But it's a thing. It is a thing. So thank you for letting me talk on that. I just want to make sure that those things are very clear.
Yeah.
You have to be real to yourself, and that's why even Dr. Lucia, you open up your own clinic because again, you have to be authentic to you, which is compassionate and caring. And that's where I'm at now too. I'm done. I am fully done. I was never supposed to be in higher ed. I did take this job because of the bigger pay raise, and I needed it because I take care of my father who's disabled and my brothers who's disabled. So I needed to do it, but now I'm going back to my people and population.
Right.
I never gave a shit about money, but I needed to make sure that they were healthy. But now that we're good, we're going back to where we need to go, which is in the urban pockets of Michigan.
Right.
There you go.
So just a funny point real quick to make. So in psychiatry training, in my residency training, we gave up our white coats practically day one because all of our trainers, our attendings told us, you don't want to scare the patients. You want them to see you as somebody else. And so we were like one of the very few specialties to just stopped wearing our white coats. That, we put it on for the ceremony when we ran, and we just like, I don't even know where my white coat is. I haven't worn it in decades. But the funny thing is that then we started when I started working, we started getting patients complaining that the doctor never saw them. They never saw us as to what we're expecting, us to walk in with the white coats, and we looked like everybody else, walking around the ER and in the units. They're like, I never got seen by the doctor. I was like, you did. You just didn't just wanted to make that point.
Sarah?
And that's so funny because when I were in the hospital, that's one of the best psychiatrists was always in cowboy stuff, and one time they confused him as one of the patients. And no, I'm like, because he never wore his tag out too for other reasons. But I just wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Ness said and Dr. Elizabeth. The reason we will have this imposter syndrome kind of thing is because we were never invited to those rooms. Because we were never invited into those rooms, we feel like we don't belong because guess what? We didn't because we were not invited. It's not that we don't know we're great and awesome, it's we never get the chance to say it. One of the reasons why I call you doctor, not only because you earn it, but also because once upon a time, 14 years ago, when I was an immigrant, homeless, and just, refugee, didn't know better, I met somebody that told me, you will become a doctor. And we're like, what is that? Because I dared to call her by her first name without saying the doctor before. It was a beautiful, I call her my college mom, Afro-American powerhouse woman that was ignoring me. I didn't know she was the dean of the College of Science. And because of her, my whole life changed in the whole sense of like all the opportunities that I saw I can get. And she was the one that taught me because, we're taught be humble, don't say all your titles. She was like, oh, no. You're going to say all the titles, all the things, and all. In fact, in my clinic, I don't have my titles up. What I have is publications of me in in the magazines and in papers and stuff like that, not to toot my own horn, but then people is like, wait, you were with the president X, Y, and Z? I'm like, yeah, and then we get a talk. Or like, you cosplay? And I'm like, yeah. So if that's not your cup of tea, and I'm with Dr. Ness, I meet people where they are, and I tell them, look, sometimes I'm gonna do F-bombs because English is one of my languages, and the F-bomb doesn't mean the same to me. But if you say in Spanish, I'm gonna freak out. So we always say that kind of stuff because it's my culture, right? And what I'm trying to say with this is owning our differences is great, but we need to honor what we have accomplished, because there is one little you out there that needs to know that you can make it. I have so many neurodivergent students that come to me and say, wait, you're severely dyslexic? How do you make a dissertation? I'm like, well, it took a while, right? It took a while, and I took those resources. Oh, how are you a professor? How you go and do these conventions and how you talk and da-da-da-da. Because we paved the way of that oppression that was about the masculinity and whiteness that Dr. Ness was saying. We are the trailblazers breaking the ice. And that's why sometimes we feel like we don't belong. And that's why we have to say, no, please call me Dr. Roldan, or no, please call me Dr. Sanchez, because I earn it. And I deserve to be in this room. Just to make the story short, one time I was receiving an award and I was all dressed in white and black in neuroscience and homeless care kind of thing. And one person asked me for bringing more bread.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Right. But the funny thing was like, oh, sure. Being me, right? Like, sure. And I asked the girls that were there, like, hey, they need more bread in that table, blah, 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 in Spanish. That same person is the person that was giving me my award.
Wow.
For excellence and stuff. Oh my God, her face, her everything. And to tell you, all night she was following me, calling me by my title. And that time it was a master's. And she was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, it's okay. But what I'm saying about this is to tell you that was the big lesson for everybody in that room, right? That stop, look at the person, and then ask them what title you want me to talk to them. How many of us we go and don't even ask the waiter's name, right? So I always ask how you would like to be called, and if you have a degree, say it, because there's little ones that need to hear that we belong here in these rooms. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not gonna take too much time. I just want to, and it's really great hearing this stuff. Like I'm not there yet, but I want to get there. Dr. Brown sounds sexy, so I want to get that eventually. But
pause. That did sound real good, Dr. Brown. I like that. I like that now.
Dr. Sean, if you're nasty, but like I want to. It's really empowering hearing that from you guys. Say that. Like I want to eventually get to that point, but I just want to kind of piggyback off of what you guys are saying. And like one of the agencies that I work really close with here is called Healthcare for the Homeless. And a lot of my resources from Healthcare for the Homeless have left. So they got a lot of these college kids who are coming in from Lord knows Milwaukee or something, like coming in thinking they're going to save the world. And again, I'm not. So what I'm going to say is part of the problem with us as being clinicians, but also there's a couple of things missing in translation. I think a lot of times we do feel like, and even with me, like we kind of feel like because we're here, like how can I put this? Like we definitely I think people who have, again, not to make this about a race thing, but like, the white kids who come from, I don't know, Nantucket or something where that wants to come to the inner city and help, I think their intentions are good.
Yep.
But it's just the fact that like you can't go in, and somebody mentioned this earlier about cultures. Like I hate when people say I don't see color.
Oh.
It's like you don't. Like that scares me more than somebody saying, I see color, because there are little different nuances that we have. And to be ignorant of that, you're harming the person. So on that end, I think that like we definitely, it's important Representation is very, very important. Like people do need to know that. Case in point, like I'm the first male in my family to do any of this stuff. Like I'm the
Mhm.
first to ever go and complete college. So, and I'm not stopping just yet, but like I'm the first. We don't really, we're unicorns. Like there aren't many males. This is like a woman dominated field. There aren't really many males who look like me that do this kind of stuff.
Nope.
So, representation is very, very important. But also like, just kind of being yourself. I think that's my biggest asset. Like even though I was born and raised here in Baltimore City, I was pretty sheltered. So like I know stuff secondhand through my family. There's nothing that anybody's gonna tell me because my family crazy as hell. There's nothing that anybody's gonna tell me that's gonna make my eyes like bug out or anything like that because my family's crazy. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm never gonna come in there and be like, yeah, I read this out of a book. I know exactly where you're coming from. I don't.
Yeah.
So I want you to, let me know, level with me, let me know where you're coming from. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me where you're coming from with different things and stuff like that, because that is a big barrier. If somebody comes in and they're like, just some tightwad or something like that, I don't want to deal with that person. Like, no, I'm not going to talk to that person. Being yourself. I remember like that is my biggest laughter is my biggest asset. I remember coming in one day, when I was working in methadone maintenance. Oh my God, I do not miss that. Getting up at 5 a.m. Well, I had to be at work by 5 a.m. I don't know how I did it, but I would hear some of my clients and stuff yelling in the hallway and everything because some of them had to do an observed, again, at masculinity. They had to do an observed urine.
Yep.
And they're like, I'm not going out. That's gay. I'm not going in there with another man and all this other stuff. And I would come down the hallway just joking, being my goof. Maybe it's inappropriate. I don't know. We're not going to talk about that right now.
Okay.
But I would come. I'm like, man, he's just waiting for me to come down the hallway so we can play swords together. Like I would say goofy shit like that.
Yeah.
And he would be like, oh, Sean, you're crazy. And I would get the urine.
Yeah.
Like it's just that like people need to see that humanistic side of you and to know that like you're not some stuffy tightwad that just read something out of a book. But I will say this though, for the audience out there watching, yeah, you definitely should find somebody that you identify with, but at the same time, sometimes gifts and presents and blessings and stuff like that don't necessarily come in a box that you would like it to come in.
Also true.
A lot of people look at me and they're like, man, what the hell are you going to, like, you look like you're 12. What are you going to tell me about drugs? And I had somebody like one time ask me like, hey man, like, have you ever used drugs before? I was like, not a day in my life. I've never smoked a cigarette. I can't help you with that. And the guy was like, well, how are you going to help me with anything? I was like, so if you had a heart attack right now and you're on the operating table and you're like, oh, wait a minute, hold up, wait. You ever have a heart attack before? I don't want you cutting me open unless you had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. And he started laughing again, but like, that's kind of the thing. Like one of my best friends, he swears by this guy that he goes to, his therapist, a Trump supporting older white dude who's probably like in his 50s or 60s or whatever. He says that guy saved his life because, you look past that, like you got to find that middle area. You got to find that middle area where like you are able to identify. You do want to be comfortable when you seek help, but at the same time, like that, you might miss out on somebody who could really help you because you're being kind of biased about the outward appearance. But again, us practitioners and those in the helping field and stuff like that, we can help get over that barrier by just being ourselves and not being so stuffy and just kind of being authentic. There's a reason why they talk about authenticity and stuff like that in chapters in school all the time. So, yeah, I'm
I'm
shut up
really
now.
sorry, but it's past noon here and I have to go feed my child. So I apologize for stepping out early. This has been a fantastic experience. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it was so good to meet all of you. So
Likewise.
I gotta go get my kid. So
Well, thank you so much for coming.
okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
All right. Okay. So I didn't get a chance to ask Dr. Sheng here, but she had to go, and we were just talking about a lot of interesting things, and now I'm thinking, I'm like, maybe I should just do like part 2 or 3 of these panels because we have so much to say. One of the things that pretty much everybody kept saying, like, oh, I don't want to get political, I don't want to do this, but I'm like, but sometimes we have to, because in the field that we work in, there are so many things that come into play for us. So My camera is overheating.
Okay.
I was wondering what
Yeah.
that weird blinking thing was.
So one thing that I wanted to ask everyone was, what would you, if you were to talk to someone who is coming in to take over your job, or coming into your field of study or expertise, what would you like recommend? What would be your advice to them?
Cocaine.
Daily basis, yes.
So, complete sarcasm for any folks that are neurodivergent like me. I'm like, what? Mentorship. And remember also skinfolk doesn't always mean kinfolk. So it doesn't always have to be identity based, but find someone that you can connect to, that that can teach you and push you, but also provide you feedback where you can implement it and use it. So just be cautious on who you look up to, but consulting and mentorship is like huge. If you're just going by the seat of your pants, it's going to be real anxiety provoking. You don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to harm the client, but there's a lot of consulting that needs to happen in the early phases. And you need to make sure that you find a mentor or a therapist or a colleague or coworker or another intern where you can speak freely about things unfiltered, where you're not going to get a harsh judgment or canceled. Like you need to be able to talk about things. It doesn't matter what it's based on, race, queerness, whatever it is, trans issues. Maybe you don't know. It's okay not to know. You're a freaking intern. You're like a young first, second year. So you need to ask questions, because if you don't, then you are going to cause harm and damage to your clients. So that's the biggest thing for me is, shut up and listen. You got 2 ears, one mouth. You need to listen. You need to listen to the person that's super, super rich and way up here, and also the poor person. As Sean said a second ago, someone can give you a healing that could be a conservative, they could be a progressive, they could be Green Party. You need to listen to folks, and then you make it into your own practice. By siloing off, then that's all you hear. You stay in that bubble, you die in that bubble. So consulting, to me, is the biggest thing in listening and learning. It's about the client. It's not about you and your issues. It's about the client. So that's what I would advise.
Yeah. Likewise, man. I feel like definitely I think my biggest thing, I knew once I actually got into this field that I was in the right place, but I'm still I'm not, I wish to someday be where you guys are, where you have found your niche and like exactly what it is. I found out that like working for a big corporation isn't me. I've kind of bounced around and everything. So I think the biggest thing on top of having mentors and stuff like that and somebody that you can bounce stuff off of is also just to kind of get your feet wet, make mistakes, be okay with making, don't like Sean is not saying go out here and do some illegal stuff and get a practice closed down.
Not on purpose. Yeah.
Not on purpose. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you're going to bump your head a few times. You're going to have to go out here and figure out what exactly your calling is. I found out earlier on, like when I first switched over to applied psychology in college, I did some internships with developmentally disabled individuals. And my heart goes out to those individuals. It takes a special kind of person to work with that population. I'm not the person. I was like, oh, I got crackheads and stuff in my family. But I don't know if that was appropriate to say. But I could deal with that. I know what to deal with. I know what to deal with. I know the face. I know what is coming my direction. Like I kid about it, but like I'm familiar with that. Like I know that is my population I feel most comfortable with. I feel at home with, because I can relate. Again, I have relatives in my family. I don't feel as though I'm up here, I'm better than someone because I'm not using drugs. I have people that I care about that also are in programs that I work in. Well, not the exact program, but they go to programs that I work in. So I want to give that kind of care to anyone because, you never know. But ultimately, just go out here, bump your head a few times, figure out exactly where you want to work. I learned a lot with methadone maintenance, but that's not me. I don't feel like I can give 110% of myself when I have a caseload of over 50 people and I'm only supposed to meet with them once a month for an hour.
Right.
That's not practical.
Mm-hmm.
Like who am I helping that way? So that's what I would tell my younger self. Like, you definitely have to learn by bumping your head, but just don't stay in those areas too long. Find out what you like and find out what works for you and be your authentic self. People will open up to you and want to work with you if you are yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And for me, it is if I was saying this for the younger therapists, is become curious of all aspects. What do I mean? Kind of like what you guys are saying. I did methadone, I did special ed, I did senior living, I did all the things. And then I start finding, I want to say the niche find me versus I find the niche. But because I was exposed to so many different um, modalities and so many different folks in mentorships, um, like I pride myself that I learned from psychoanalysis all the way into the woohoo kind of like washa kind of stuff things now, because that give me the tools to meet the people where they are, my clients where they are. And not only that, it helped me to, I'm passionate about this population and I know what population I cannot work with, A, because they're too close to home, or B, they're very triggering to me, right? But I will never knew that if I didn't work with them, right? And another thing that I learned, your population is never the population that you feel sorry for. So I will repeat that loud. The population that you feel sorry for is not your population. The population that you feel like you either relate to or you want to heal with you, kind of thing. But for example, if you have a population that you're like, poor kind of thing, like we call it toxic mentorship and why not? No, but you have that one, like you say, like I love working with this disabled people. I work with people with disabilities and why not? Granted, when I was in a special ed, I got tired of getting beat up because I'm tiny. I'm 4'11", so I'm very tiny, and I got beat up almost every day. But I love the work, but my body couldn't sustain it, right? So, right, and like in the military though, I my background is like I said, Homeland Security and everything, so I know all those things, but I never in a million years I will like think they're my people kind of thing. No, not at all. But then I discovered that they have the same kind of mentality that drives a lot of us immigrants, that's the only option that we have, right? So if I was a younger clinician, I would say find mentorship that doesn't look like you, that doesn't talk to you, but also find a community that does look like you, that walks like you. That way you know the problems that is in there and the system problems. And 3, don't be afraid to speak, but know that not everybody is going to agree. And the most important thing, if you're a client, know that if your therapist has not gone to therapy, that's my red flag. Because all of us that are in here, at least once we have been in the system, not because because we cannot request that from somebody if we haven't walked through that is vulnerable space, right? But also understanding that, yeah, I got that therapist that I didn't vibe with, right? And I say it's like speed dating. If I don't vibe with the person at least 3 times, 3 different dates or 3 different sessions, it's time to cut it out. It's okay to say no to people that is not healing to you, but you will not know in the first session. There's no way, right? In the first session anyway, it's just to put the diagnosis. So if you're a person that is trying to find help, know that there's resources, there are free resources there. If you need to use a shaman, a coach, a therapist, just go and do it. Because little by little you will heal and will go finding the people that you need in your community.
Okay, well, we heard a lot from everyone. There's like great advice, and now I'm highly encouraged to continue doing these panels because we can learn from each other. And I hope now, I don't know if anybody like knew each other before we started this panel, but now you do, and now you guys can collaborate, and you guys know like when I love the fact that Dr. Chang like agreed to be here with us, because we were all like, wait, let me ask you something, because it's not often that we get like someone in her specific profession to like answer our questions, in a safe sort of calm environment. So this is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I will definitely be collaborating with everyone here once again. So look forward to that later on. If anybody wanted to reach out to you to do a collaboration or a consultation or seek any type of services, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm kind of new to all of this. Like, I definitely need to make a LinkedIn account. Booney, if you're watching this, I love you. She's been kind of like pushing me out my comfort zone to do different things and to, do different things. Whether it's streaming this, I want to incorporate this stuff more, but I'm like budding with this, so I'm kind of new. But as I get more comfortable with it and create LinkedIn accounts and different things, but for now, my Instagram, I put it over there on the side, and Twitch.
Say what they are though. Say what they are for the people that are listening.
That would be
Yeah,
very
because
important.
they see it.
Childishness incarnate is what I go by, both Instagram and Twitch.
Okay. Dr. Sarah.
I guess I go. Okay. If you want to find me in private practice, please go to my LinkedIn. It's my name, Sarah Roldan, and you will see the private practice there. Other than that, I am a podcaster, and so you can find my podcast in all resources for in English and in Spanish at Or Oasis Podcast Community. Again, it's at Or Oasis podcast community, and just plug in the announcement that Dr. Elizabeth and we will be also in tags. It's an amazing conference, and I will be also in WonderCon. So if you guys are over there in WonderCon, please come and say hi. And it's a surprise in what panels will be, but that is in the plans too. So once again, it's my pleasure to be here with such an amazing group of trailblazers, and this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Yes. So everyone's information is going to be in the comments of the YouTube video as well, so you can check them out.
Again, I have a LinkedIn, my personal account LinkedIn, which is Nazir Zerka the second. But we have a podcast that we do, so that's all the promotional material. That's where we met Dr. Elizabeth through their Instagram since like literally when we started, like 2 years ago. So like one of the day one followers here. Different Spectrums podcast, right? It's all autism based, right? Different Spectrum. We do movies and clips and scenes, and then we do therapeutic, like therapizing it. And so I'm definitely going to reach out to y'all to be on the pod. You just got to pick a movie or show that you really like and identify with, and then we're just going to take that clip and then go from it and for it. So with Dr. Elizabeth, we did Avatar, obviously. And so that's what we do. So Different Spectrums podcast. We're now going to start streaming as well on Twitch. So I was going to invite both of y'all to do it. We're playing Fortnite, but we're going to do a little bit of therapy talk and just regular talk. We're just going to talk, but it'll be mental health based. So shout out to all of you. It's been magnificent talking to y'all. I'm going to get your information. I'm going to plug it into our website and different things like that. And then we're going to reach out to y'all to do collaborations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. This is why I love doing this, because then we can all geek out together, and our like geeking group is like or geekiness group is just expanding. This is amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for making making it to the end of this video. And if you have any questions or any ideas of topics you want us to discuss, please let us know in the comments. If you want to hear from more from a specific person, also let me know in the comments as well. And again, like I said, all of the information for these lovely people, and as well as Dr. Chang, I will reach out to her for her information. It will be in the description of this video, so you can check that out. And yeah, don't forget to reframe and re-enchant your life. Bye.
Bye.